Welcome back to DC Wrap. I'm Stephanie Hoff with WisPolitics.com, filling in for Pat Pabletti. Our guest this week is Matt Canter, a former Doyle administration staffer, longtime Capitol Hill aide, and partner at Global Strategy Group. Matt, thanks for taking the time to join me.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Since we're on the eve of the Democratic National Convention, I want to start there. DNC officials last week announced plans for an almost entirely virtual convention. This is, of course, a big blow to the city of Milwaukee. Since that announcement, we've heard Dem operatives in Milwaukee call for the party to bring the convention back to Cream City in 2024. Are those calls realistic? And have you been hearing any chatter along the same lines in your circles in DC?
I think that's a smart decision and something that people should be calling for. I think that the party nationally will be very open to bringing the convention back under better circumstances in 2024. I think that the job that the host committee and the convention committee did in preparing for the convention before March, and then when the pandemic hit in the early stages, sort of preparing for any number of different scenarios, I think demonstrates that Milwaukee would make a first-class host for an event like this. I'm so sad that Milwaukee has missed out on this opportunity, not just for the convention, but to host, the NBA Finals and a championship. It's one of many outcomes to come from this pandemic. But I think that the people of Milwaukee and the leaders of the convention effort have done just a terrific job, and I think the party really smart to honor the commitment that it made in 2020 and bring the convention back in 2024.
Shifting gears just a bit, the buzz on Capitol Hill seems to be centering on the next wave of coronavirus relief. What's the latest you're hearing on that package?
Well, I think there's no question that right now the sides are moving further apart, not closer together, and they seem pretty confident in their posture to go into what's left of the August recess, emboldened in their own positions. I was really, to be honest, skeptical of Speaker Pelosi's strategy to pass the HEROES Act in Congress, given that there was a lot of items in that legislation that the Republicans were never going to agree to. But I think that, as usual, she has proven me wrong and proven a lot of other people wrong, that put Democrats on a much stronger position going into these negotiations, having passed legislation that really addresses all of the core issues at play right now in the pandemic. And the Republicans just don't have answers to these challenges that also address the hyper concerns of their base, and obviously their president, who's very reactive to those concerns. So I think long-term Republicans, Mnuchin, and eventually McConnell are going to want to really make a deal and move towards Speaker Pelosi a great deal. And I think Mark Meadows is going to sort of shrink in influence and sort of pull back from the negotiating table, recognizing that he really can't lead any sort of actual path forward here.
Your firm, Global Strategy Group, recently conducted some polling. It found that U.S. Senator Ron Johnson's favorability is underwater in the state. Voters also broadly disapprove of a probe he is helping to lead into presumptive Dem nominee Joe Biden and his family. I wanted to ask about the timing of that polling. We're obviously closing in on an election, and we've seen a lot of dollars spent on races that are on the ballot.
Yeah.
Johnson isn't on the ballot for another 2 years. Why do you think the focus is on him now?
Yeah, I think the focus, in my view, is on him, because for a couple of reasons. One, he's so unpopular in the state of Wisconsin and really distinguishes himself from a lot of our other statewide elected officials, who are popular. I mean, in the poll that we did, he was less popular uh, than Pelosi in the state of Wisconsin. Nancy Pelosi was more popular, more favorable than Ron Johnson in the state of Wisconsin. That's that is remarkable, considering Democrats spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year turning her into the boogeyman that they run on all across the country. So Johnson's in a very precarious situation politically, and he's deciding to use not only all of his time and his constituents' time in Washington, but also his perch as chairperson of the Homeland Security Committee at a time of a global pandemic, at a time of increasing threats from a number of foreign actors as well, whether that be Iran, China, Russia, et cetera, to, to shift the focus entirely to a political investigation that Donald Trump has called for into Joe Biden's family. And that in and of itself is not well known, according to the poll, to voters in Wisconsin, but makes them far more unfavorable to Johnson even than they are right now. So I think that's one of the things. The other reason is there's been a lot that's come out about Johnson's own personal business dealings that have not been heavily scrutinized. And I think what the polling showed is that those issues too, when voters learn more about them, are very concerning to Wisconsin voters.
To close out, we always open the floor to our guests. What's on your mind that we might not have covered so far?
I think, I think you have covered it. I think Wisconsin is ground zero in the election. I don't think there's a more important tipping point state, as they say. That's the lingo. Wisconsin is the tipping point. It appears that Trump and Republicans largely have sort of, dialed back their hopes about being victorious in Michigan again in November. They don't seem to have pursued the kind of uh, uh, what they had hoped to pursue in Minnesota in terms of trying to be successful both at the presidential level and the Senate level in Minnesota. So it really leaves Wisconsin, I think, as the core hope that Trump and the Republicans have in November. And I think there's a tremendous amount of importance that every voter has in the state of Wisconsin this coming November. The other thing that I think deserves credit as I think about this a little bit more is Wisconsin is sort of unique nationally in terms of how it has responded, given its political standing, to the coronavirus. Right, you have a Democratic governor who has I think tried to be aggressive and take similar steps that frankly other Republican governors have taken to protect citizens in their own state. And you've just seen sort of a hyper politicized state legislature and a hyper politicized Supreme Court try to prevent the governor from really doing his job to protect people in the state, just for political partisanship. If you'd really have to wonder if there was a Republican governor like they have in Ohio, for instance, sort of taking the same exact steps that Governor Evers has taken, whether or not the legislature would do the right thing, or the Supreme Court would do the right thing, but aren't just because of partisanship. It puts the state in a class by itself, and that's truly unfortunate.
Matt Canter, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. My pleasure. Anytime.